All right, everybody. It's Friday. We are 5 days removed from the disaster that was, well, you guys know. We are 5 days removed from it. We are 2 days away from moving on to the next game, a few days away from Christmas. How is everybody tonight? um, I mean, it is obviously time to move on. This team still has something of a prayer going into this game against the Cowboys, but at the same time, it still has to be discussed because all the rules have been broken this year, guys. This Seahawks team, they had rules in the Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson era. There were things they did do, there were things they did not do. And those rules have been broken one after the other over the last couple years. And everything came to a crushing head last week against the Rams, where the rules got shattered and everything that we as Seahawks fans thought was going to protect us doesn't protect us anymore. It doesn't do us anything. So, obviously, I'm going to look to the future because we still have a prayer of something good happening this year. And even without that, even without that, we can't stop watching this team, guys. We love this team. We like watching them too much. We like the players on this team way too much for us to just hit the eject button on a season just because things didn't go exactly the way we wanted it to. I mean, we got 2 games left, and then there's probably going to be no meaningful Seahawk football for, many months. We've got a Mariners season to look forward to. We've got Huskies college basketball season to look forward to if you watch college basketball, which I don't. We've got, a whole summer of wishing we had a basketball team in Seattle, or spring rather. We've got all that between now and, the next meaningful Seahawks games after the next two. So I'm going to watch the whole game against the Cowboys, whatever happens, and I'm going to hope we do well, hope something shows up. And that's all well and good, but now that the anger and disappointment of what happened on Sunday against the Rams has subsided a little bit, here's what I'll say. Talking about it a little more rationally. People have gotten on me in the comments section over the past couple months for being a little more negative than most people are, which that's fine. I have no problem with that. I've disparaged Russell Wilson for not playing well in first quarters and first halves, and I get people telling me to knock it off because he's an MVP candidate, which is great, but the numbers bear it out. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league in the first quarter, and I've watched that every week, and I see it. It's hurting us. I've been critical of our ability to find offensive lineman talent and then develop it. I pointed out that guys on our offensive line have typically gone to other teams and immediately started playing much better. I've disparaged guys in our coaching staff because they seem like they've stuck around a couple years too long given that the production they were putting out there. I've said negative things about Jimmy Graham because he was a guy we could have let go and given no money to this year. Instead, we kept him around for $10 million, and he's going to have less than 500 yards receiving this year. I've disparaged the defensive line. We went out and made a big trade in the offseason to bring in a big defensive tackle, which was supposed to fix our problems. And then we've got this big lineup of heavy hitters on our defensive line. And over again, I watch these games and we don't get to the quarterback. And I'm like, why does the talent that I think we have not match up with the production I see on the field? I've been on the secondary for giving up all these 3rd and longs, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 12, 3rd and, culminating in a 3rd and 20 give up where the Rams were running a give up play and we gave up a 60-yard touchdown last week. I've been on the secondary for giving up those plays. I've been on the defense as a whole for giving up all those 3rd downs because they're basically turnovers. When you get an opposing offense into 3rd and 15 and you give it up to them, it feels like a turnover. I've been on all that stuff. I've been negative. I've been negative on our draft classes, guys. We've had draft classes over the past few years that they haven't been good enough. And with all that said, with everything I just said, I had no idea we were that bad. And look, you can say whatever you want to say about injuries or referees or bad luck. That all played a factor last week against the Rams. But to go down 34-0 at halftime and lose 42-7 at home to a team that you beat earlier this year, you have to play really bad, and you have to give a piss-poor performance for that to even be possible. There was no reason why that game couldn't have at least have been semi-competitive, given the talent both teams had out there. And their coaching was better. Their preparation was better. They did everything better. And I didn't know we could play that bad. I saw signs of it earlier this year when we blew a game against Washington, when our defense couldn't do anything right against Houston. These games, there were troubling signs, but I didn't know we could play that bad. And to the fans out there who are still optimistic, God bless you. But if you watch that game last week, combined with the product that we've seen on the field for the last several weeks, really most of this season, and you say that we don't need to be changed significantly in this offseason, if you don't think that somebody should be punished, somebody should fall on the axe for this, I'm going to call it a disaster of a season, then I think you're out of your mind. Okay, I'm not saying it's going to be John Schneider. I'm not saying it's got to be Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson or Bobby Wagner. I'm not, these guys, I don't want these guys to leave. But there needs to be an acknowledgement of the failure that looks like this season is going to be. I mean, if we get in and run the table, go win the Super Bowl, obviously that changes everything. But as of right now, this season's a big disappointment. And last week we saw how bad it can truly get, how flawed this team is, how poorly it was put together, how poorly it's been coached. And some people need to be held accountable for that. And the main thing that frustrates me, and as a Seahawks fan, even if you're not aware of this element of it yet, it should frustrate you. And I realize nothing can be done about this now. It's in the past. But here's the thing. Here's the main thing as a fan that kills you about a season like this. 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever. If you're a Seahawks fan, you're going to be sitting around at home thinking about stuff, doing whatever it is you do in your life. You're going to be thinking about this era of Seahawks football, the best era of Seahawks football that has ever been and quite possibly ever will be. From 2012, which was the rookie year of Russell Wilson, to, let's say, this year, because this is the year when it really, really seems like things are changing, because all the things that we used to depend on from 2012 on are just not applying. And what cracked a little bit over the last 2 years has cracked and shattered this year. You're going to look at that 5-year run, 2012 to, 6-year run, 2012 to 2017, 6 seasons. First thing you're going to do is say, I love those guys. They won me a Super Bowl. They got me the only Super Bowl in Seahawks history, quite possibly. We'll see what happens over the next 20 years. They got us to another Super Bowl. We had a run of dominance, a run of excellence. We won 8 playoff games over the course of 5 seasons. We had a winning record every season, assuming we win one of these last 2, which I think we will. We were always competitive. We won big games, big upsets every single year. 2 Super Bowl appearances. That was a great team, and I'm grateful that they passed through my life. We're all going to be thinking that. We're all going to be thrilled that this happened, that this run of Seahawks football, 2012 to 2017, happened. And then you're going to really think about it, okay? After the happiness of winning that one Super Bowl leaves your mind, you're going to think about it, and you're going to go, okay, this Seahawks team became the first team in the Super Bowl era to lead the league in points allowed per game for 4 straight seasons. Nobody had done that since the Browns in the 50s, I think. And we did it. 4 straight seasons best defense in the league in terms of points allowed. Hall of Famers all over the place on this defense. Bobby Wagner, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, they're all going in. We had Pro Bowl caliber players backing them up. Cam Chancellor, KJ Wright, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill. Now it looks like Frank Clark is headed that way. We got a little bit of Chris Clemens near the beginning. Byron Maxwell and Brandon Browner made cameos as Pro Bowl caliber players for a couple of those years. Offensively, you had a future Hall of Fame quarterback. At least it looks like he's headed that way. And Russell Wilson, Jimmy Graham, we had him for the second half of the run. He's probably going to the Hall of Fame. As far as I know, as far as tight ends go, he's near the top. Marshawn Lynch, borderline Hall of Famer. Doug Baldwin. You're going to look at all this awesome talent that we assembled over the course of that run and all the great things that they did. And then you're going to sit there and be like, why did we only win one Super Bowl? We had the best defense in the league by far over that 6-year span. Only a couple teams even come close. We had a franchise quarterback who we got, bargain bin prices for the first 3 years. We got elite running back for half those seasons. We had capable wide receivers. We had a really good tight end. The special teams was really good for the first few years, and then it slowly disintegrated. But you're going to be thinking, we only won one Super Bowl. Why didn't we win 3? We only went to 2 Super Bowls. Why didn't we go to 5? We should have been able to build on all this talent, all this defensive ability, all of this offensive potential, and it should have been more. We won 8 playoff games. Why wasn't it 12 or 13? And obviously it sounds greedy, but when you have a defense this good, you should be greedy in this league. And when you're thinking about things like that, you're going to ask that question. And look, injuries, luck, all that stuff, it obviously plays a part. That might run through your mind, and you might just go, well, what can we do about that? Sometimes we get, the bad end of officiating, but that balances out over time. Realistically, you're going to be thinking, who are we going to hold accountable for the fact that this team wasn't even better? A lot of people are going to hold Tom Cable accountable. They're going to say we could have been a dynasty. We could have won 3 Super Bowls in a short period of time. But Tom Cable couldn't develop an offensive line, so the offensive line was our downfall in so many of these seasons. Some people are going to put it on Darrell Bevell and say, why didn't we have an offensive coordinator who could better unlock the talent of Russell Wilson, who understood how to use Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham better, who was just a more innovative mind, who could have used a dynamic talent like Russell Wilson more than Darrell Bevell. Personally, I'm going to lay off Darrell Bevell. I'm on the fence with him. I don't hate him. I don't dislike him. I know we could do better. Some people are going to look back at this era of Seahawks football and say, Bevell held us back from winning more than one Super Bowl. Maybe some people are going to be critical of Pete Carroll for holding on to some of these coaches too long. Maybe it's going to be John Snyder. But the point is, something on this team held it back from being truly dominant. We were great. We were excellent. We achieved a level of excellence that very few teams in NFL history have ever achieved. But we only won the one Super Bowl. And I'll take it. I'm glad I saw my team win a title, but we're going to look back at how good this defense was in a few years, and we're going to wish that we could have that back, because something held these guys back a little bit, and you can't tell me things couldn't have gotten better. And with what I saw last week against the Rams, this era of Seahawks football is coming to a close. Pieces of it are going to carry over, but a lot of the pieces are not going to be part of whatever the next great Seahawks team is. Bennett, Averill, Chancellor, Graham, the list goes on and on of guys who might not be here in a year or two. All right, that is where the pain comes from, guys. That is why I get so frustrated when this team doesn't perform to expectations because, look, John Snyder realized all this stuff too. John Snyder traded the future to win right now, and the team isn't winning right now. We traded for Dwayne Brown. We traded for Sheldon Richardson. We don't have very many draft picks over the next couple of years because of all the trades we made. Mistakes have been made, guys. Blame the front office, blame the coaching, blame a couple of the players, but a defense this good could have been much, much more. And we're not the first team in NFL history to have that problem. I understand. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 15 years ago, they had one of the greatest defenses of all time. Derek Brooks, Simeon Rice, Warren Sapp, John Lynch. If you want to throw, Dexter Jackson in there, fine. And they only had one really successful season that probably eats away at their fans. The 49ers with Steve Young only ever won one Super Bowl. It must eat away at them that they couldn't win a couple more because they had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and, the greatest receiver of all time, all that. But I'm not worried about those teams. I'm worried about my team. And my team had a couple of flaws that kept them from true dynasty-like dominance. And that's where the pain comes from. All right, moving on. Tomorrow, or a couple days from now, we're playing the Cowboys. It's a simple question, guys. Can we stop the run? I don't think the answer is yes. The defensive line has problems. Nazir Jones still probably not going to play this week. Bobby Wagner's going to play, but realistically, how can he be 100%? KJ Wright looks like he's ready to go. So things should be better. But now Frank Clark showed up on the injury report this week. Now Bradley McDougall showed up on the injury report this week. So I don't know. I don't know. Can we stop the run? Because if we can't, Ezekiel Elliott is going to do whatever the hell he wants to do. And that's a non-starter for me right there. Because if we let Ezekiel Elliott run all over our defense, I don't see how we can win. That being said, if that happens or not, whatever it may be, can the offense please show up? We're playing a pretty crappy Cowboys defense. Get the ball to Doug Baldwin. Get the ball to Jimmy Graham. Move the ball. Score some points. Even if you lose, put up a fight on offense, please. That's what really sucked the life out of me from that Rams game. The fact that, we were hyping up Russell Wilson to be this MVP. We're hyping up Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham and all these guys, and they just... no production. All right, I've gone on way too long, but there's a lot of frustration about this team right now. I had to get out there to make you guys try to understand where I'm coming from when I get so frustrated with these guys. Because this season wasn't good enough. And when you look at the personnel and you look at the decisions made, it should have been. See you guys after the Cowboys.